Good evening, everyone. All our gold parents. It's nice to see at least these many of you over here because today's talk is really going to be an eye opener for all of us. Today our guest is Dhanalakshmi Ayyer, who is one of the strongest pillars of our gold PSG. Gold, I hope everyone knows gold stands for GOLD, that is gift of learning differently. And PSG is the parent support group. Now, before we begin with Dhanalakshmi's talk, I would just like to give you a short introduction of Dhanalakshmi. Dhanalakshmi Ayyer is an economist by training. She's an analyst by inclination, an observer of man and more by nature. She's a part-time psychological counselor. She's a part-time book editor. She reviews books on developmental economics and is a full-time research assistant to her political and foreign policy analyst husband, N. Satyamurthy, who heads the Chennai chapter of Delhi-based think tank, Observer Research Foundation. Now, a little bit more about why Dhanalakshmi is going to speak with us today. Her son, Sripathi, has already addressed the parent support group, Gold Parent Support Group, offline. This was, I think, around 2 years ago. Why Sripathi? He is a dyslexic, and what is special about him? He spoke after he was 8 years old. He wrote after he was 12 years old. He started to read comfortably, independently by the age of 16 only. But by the age of 28, he was a PhD degree holder. And today is a professor at the Jindal University in Delhi. So this was really amazing. And he's done all this without losing a single school year. He never took a gap year or a double year. He has never lost a single schooling year, and all the credit goes to his parents and Dhanalakshmi. This is really amazing, Dhanalakshmi. So, Lakshmi, tell us, how was it, the journey of bringing up Sripathi?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Many of you would have heard us, me and Satyam, talk to you all. This is just action replay with a few tweaks here and there. Now, I begin with a small, I won't say a correction, but a small development here. In case I didn't tell you, Rashmi, Mridula, Vinit, Sripathi has quit OP Jindal University. He has quit teaching and has gone back to industry. He's gone back to industry, the think tank industry. He's now a research fellow with Indian Council for World Affairs, which is the think tank of the MEA, and it is one of the oldest think tank in the country, established somewhere around 1946, even before India got its independence.
That's so wonderful.
And it is a huge mark. Okay, so that is where I begin. Both of us, we have a tale to tell you that is quite daunting, yet proves that nothing is impossible once one puts your hearts, minds, souls, and efforts into it. Rashmi has told you what were the hurdles the child had with his, he being a 97% dyslexic, which he is even today, and being an ADHD. Before I go into the life story, into our life stories, I will put forth a few caveats. This is basically for parents, because I think parents need to know a few things that we didn't know then. Much of what we did, much of the parenting that we did was basically by instinct. And a few deliberate decisions. Point number one, parenting is no pastime activity. It is a full-time job. Parenting a child with different needs is totally a no compromise proposition. It is hard work, which in the long time does have results. It may take its time, but it does produce results, period. 2, please accept and understand the child as they are. There are no shortcuts to parenting, and definitely in parenting a child with SLD and dyslexia, but please have a balanced approach to it. Don't get hyper. Don't get too anxious. Don't get uh, too obsessed with it, even when you're still committed to it. The trajectory and the learning path of dyslexics is different. Don't feel shy to use OT, technology, interventions, concessions, whatever is there available today to help the child. 3, hyperparenting and helicopter parenting does your child more harm than good. To be forever after the child, shadowing the child through every action and motion, taking them to one class after another, one therapy after another in a series, like a continuous relay race with no breathing space in between, will only confuse the child and hamper development and growth. It is this relay race kind of activity is what we mean by saying helicopter parenting. And hyperparenting is being over anxious and over, to fret over the child over much. Give the child some time to absorb and to grow by themselves with a gentle prodding only, and if only warranted and advised. This hyperparenting and helicopter parenting does as much harm as neglected parenting and being in denial, which in turn only compounds the issue. 4, there is no one size fits all. There is no one size fits all formula, but there are general guidelines that are universal and uniform. Knowledge is only the end. Reading and writing are only tools that enable the journey. Do not be rigid in your approach. Window shopping and forever exchanging notes with fellow parents need not always be helpful. For problems, circumstances, perceptions differ. And if this consultations and exchanging notes is within the peer parent group, you're not going to be any wiser, because that exposure is just as limited as your exposure is. 6th, do not impose your ambitions, your hopes, your likes, your thwarted ambitions and your frustrations on the child. Any child as for that matter, not only children with SLD. Children have a life to live which cannot be yours and needn't be the same as yours. A behavior pattern need not always, the 7th, and this is very important, a behavior pattern need not always indicate SLD dyslexia situation. A naturally exuberant, active, inquisitive child is not necessarily a hyperactive child. A child who takes time to settle down in class routines need not be a slow learner either. It could be anything from a problem with sight, with hearing, with wrong seating positions, because of height, uncomfortable child who is your neighbor, or being uncomfortable with the child who is their neighbor, light being reflected on or from the blackboard at their seating point, or even sunlight streaming in just where they sit that make them squirm and fidget. We need to observe and go into why the child is behaving the way he does. Be patient and watchful, but do not run to therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists immediately, and thereby stress yourself and pressurize the child too at the drop of the hat. Ideally, you can take the advice of the child's pediatrician or the family doctor. But if the school doesn't have an issue, trust me, the child doesn't have an issue. Hyperparenting is not going to do the child any good. I repeat this. In all of this, enjoy the child's childhood. Let the child enjoy theirs. They are going to be a child only this once. Remember, it is only these few years that they are going to be with you. From mid-teens on, they will have a life of their own, and then they will fly away. Let these years be pleasant, memorable, yet filled with discipline, value education, and principles, which will stand their stead in the years to come. All of this begins right from the time the child is a toddler, and certain habits get ingrained where it becomes second, if not first nature. Ninth, the child should be made to feel wanted and loved, but at the same time, not given the indulgence of being entitled and a feeling of being more endowed than others, either in the family or in the milieu they grow, the atmosphere they grow in. Belittling them is also not taught. In a word, don't spoil the child. There's nothing wrong with the child. The child is as good as any other. And don't, I repeat, I will never, I mean, I can never stop repeating this. Don't ever spoil the child. I have seen enough and more children being spoiled just because they have been indulged in, just because they're, I won't even say shortcomings, I won't say problems, but their capacities have been indulged. Okay? 10th, not conforming to set norms of school and society, not being able to do in quotes, that what others are doing is in itself a great negative from the child's perception at one level. Nothing's actually wrong with it. But because he's not doing what the others are doing, he thinks he's not up to the mark. And generally, school and society, family and friends are not very accommodative or charitable towards this quality. Remember, for the child, it's a struggle for no fault of theirs. It can be even very hurting and painful. The parents need to be the child's biggest support, their go-to refuge. Do not be a part of the problem by compounding it with your anxiety, your criticism, and your ambitions. Parents must be a part of the solution by helping them to channelize their energies, identify the child's capacities and capabilities, and steering them on to the track of tapping their potential. Yes, every child has immense potential waiting for an outlet. 11, if you are lucky to get mental, emotional, physical, and financial support from family and friends, you are doubly blessed. It's a rare blessing, I would say. If not, it doesn't matter. It's your child that you are raising, and be determined to raise them well. Criticism, taunt, sarcasm, harsh observations from one and all around and afar is part of the game. Learn to brush them all aside. Learn to ignore them, even if it is at the cost of cutting off your ties with those who are uncharitable or pretend to be charitable. Okay. These are not platitudes, but hard lessons that we learn the very hard way at every turn. No one taught us, no one told us, and frankly, I don't want any parent to go through the misguidance that we did experience and the heartburn we experienced, which is why I have given you such a long introduction. Now to come to the real story. As Rashmi has already said, our child spoke at 8 plus, wrote at 12 plus, read at 16 plus, got his PhD at 28 plus, etc., etc., etc. The why of all these delays remained a question mark till much later, when about 15 years ago, in retrospect, doctors after research, new findings, and using his case as a test case, deduced and derived that dyslexia, it was dyslexia and dyslexia alone that confused the synapses in the brain, the connections in the brain. And the child simply didn't do what he had to do when he should have done them. He just didn't feel the need to either speak or write or read. So his mind had to be trained to do these basic functions, what we call basic functions, or even reflex action functions. To begin, his was a 35-week preterm cesarean birth. All milestones except speech were normal. We identified his hyperactivity, then called hyperkinesis, then around the time when he was 8 to 10 months old. Our journey began then. After the initial hiccups in identifying the right doctor and medical help, we landed with the neurologist who was with him till he needed him. at his age 15 months. Doctor had the understanding, the empathy, and the capability to help the
15
child.
months. At 15 months, are you saying, Lakshmi?
Yes, 1.25 years old. Because remember, we had identified his problem when he was 8 or 10 months old, and then the chakkar of going to all the doctors began right then. So when 15, and in fact, his medical records began at 8 to 10 months. And in fact, it was this record that we had of his from his 8 to 10 months till he was 13, 14, which helped us get exemptions from CBSE. When we realized that this child would take up all our time, money, and energy, and that it would be a long and dedicated haul, it was a cool-headed, hard-nosed decision that we both took after studied deliberation. One, he would be our only child. Having another child was a strict no-no, because we would be doing injustice to both him and his would have been siblings. We divided attention when this child needed all the attention. Two, my husband would not leave Madras, which perhaps had the best, if not the only facilities then to guide and help Sripathi. That was a very difficult career decision, but he took it, which again meant that he would make his career choices in and based in the city, thus tweaking his career opportunities, embracing a new trail whenever needed. Four, there would be complete division of labor in this, where he would bring in the money, the bread, butter, jam, and marmalade, while pitching in wherever, whenever, however needed. And I would devote myself full time to bring up Sripathi. Now, this is a huge opportunity cost, yes.
There was you might have lost on so many job opportunities, right?
I'm coming to it. There was no dearth of opportunity for both of us. I shot down a series of job offers in various sectors: insurance, industries, PR, hospitality, advertising. I can go on, and set them in and out of the country, from BBC London, which was Holy Grail then, to various publications across the board all over the world. Sripathi, this was all because and for Sripathi. Call it opportunity cost, but it had to be paid. If we had to make a man of the child that Sripathi was, if Sripathi had to be equipped to stand on his own 2 feet in his time, which thankfully he is more than equipped today. Yes, it was, I won't even call it sacrifice. It is what we had to do for the child. We had to sacrifice our present to build the future. You call it sacrifice, you call it building the present, whatever, use whatever name. But that was, there were no two ways about it. I'm coming to the most operational part of it, when I'm talking about a period 87. He was born in 86. So this period was from late 87 onwards. He was born in mid 86, so late 87 onwards. Those were the days when there was zero, I repeat, zero awareness amongst the medical community, and therapeutic help was minimal. Remediation was just beginning. Whatever therapy was there was a tweaked avatar of what was being done for children with autism, spasticity, MR, Down syndrome, etc., etc. There was nothing, and just plain nothing, for SLDs or dyslexia. In fact, the term SLD was not even existed, not even in current usage. And dyslexia was there in textbooks, medical textbooks. Keeping these methodologies as guidelines. In fact, the word hyperactivity was not there. That came in much later. Keeping these methodologies as guidelines, we devised our own activities for reining his attention deficiency. And much of what we did was plain, I can say with pride, is something which we invented and we created. Call it, be jigsaw puzzles or building blocks, or mixing the grocery items at home. the dals and the various other grocery items, mixing the various dals and asking him to sort them out, seeking his help in sorting out groceries as we bought them in and to putting them away, gardening to help hand and eye coordination, and similar activities and crafts like macrame, which used, and so many things. And amongst all this was sorting new books, which used to be bought by the dozen each week, since both of us are very avid readers, and we continue to be so. And we bought a home library which would put any regular library to shame. And we helped sort his help because we had already taught him to identify the alphabets and its order. We sought his help to sort out the new books that we had bought in alphabetical order. A fun way of teaching him the alphabet. Now, most, if not all of it, is now standard operating procedure in OT. But none of it was standardized or even known those days. It was a story of endless innovation, endless thinking on one's feet, and endless, trying to find out what else different can we do? Because given his attention deficiency, he would get bored of any activity after he had mastered in quotes again. That was attention deficiency. Now we go on to hyperactivity. For hyperactivity, it was energy burning activities like skating, swimming, games, tennis, mridangam playing, cricket, etc. All of it to burn energy. Note the contrast. We sent him both to cricket and to tennis. Why? It was only to rein in his hyperactivity and to bring his attention deficiency to order. One was hitting the ball in a confined area. Other was to hit out the ball to wherever it can go. Both of which helped him concentrate on the given activity at its own pace. And trust me, all of it helped ease out both attention deficiency and hyperactivity in good time.
But Lakshmi, how did you know, or it was just your own innovation that you thought of these two separate kinds of ball hittings, like one was in a space?
Exactly. We use our brains.
On your own? Nobody told you?
Because remember, there was nothing, and there were no guidelines available. Doctors did not know anything. Mm-hmm. There were no therapists. Of course, there was a therapist, but even doctors, when I say psychologists and psychiatrists, there's some of them who are big names in the business even today, they called him an autistic child. And I knew very well if he could be anything but an autistic child. Ultimately, and somebody even labeled him an MR. Ultimately, it was the neurologist doctor whom I went through when he was age 15, whom we went to when he was age 15 months, who gave us a guided direction. But even he knew only this much. But every time we innovated, we used to go refer to him, sir, can we try this out? Will it be effective or will it detract him? That was my only question. Any activity we thought of, we just checked out with the neurologist whether it will be effective or whether it will be detractive. If the latter was ruled out, we used to go out. Let's try. Okay. And as I said, all of it called for a lot of patience, plenty of struggle, some frustration, plenty of money. I cannot even think of how much we have spent. This is this is just a pointer. I'm not making any a lauding statement about it, but remember, all of it does cost money, and it did. And a whole lot of can he's, will he, should he, we were never sure whether what would happen. And as he grew, activities were becoming age appropriate, including video games. And in the end, all of it did help. no regrets. Now, the speech story was a different hurdle. After speech therapists and neurologists cleared out any physical anomaly, the verdict was there is no physical, physiological, psychiatric, or social reason why Sripathi should not talk. He just doesn't feel the need to talk, mainly because he's been getting away with his sign and syllable language with ease. Maybe he's just being impatient to talk, to learn to talk. And he got away with ease with both familiar people and with strangers. But our definite advice that the topmost speech therapist in the country then, Dr. Prasad, said was, continue talking to him in any manner. It could be just a conversation, it could be storytelling, it could be anything. It could be mantram chanting or anything, but you talk to him. Don't let the machine talk. Of course, those days we didn't have such advanced devices. It was only the good old cassette tape record. But you talk to him and use a single language. That's a very important advice, because between my husband and me, we speak a dozen languages, and we tend to break into any one of those dozen languages simultaneously, or rather many of them together simultaneously. So the child will get confused. So use only one language. And a more intense prescription was he should learn to know that there is a connection between action and speech is important. So expose him to that. Stage, theater, dance drama, movies, 5 times a week. Imagine we did this for almost 10 years till he started talking, or rather say 8+ years, 9 years, till he started talking and he mastered talking. Imagine going to a movie or whatever, all these activities 5 times a week. Another mind-boggling activity, but yet we did it. At the end of 3-4 years of movies, of all this, theater, dramas, movies, etc., Sripathi hadn't started talking. No, he wouldn't talk. He continued with the sign and syllable language, but he became a very, very reliable critic. His famous statement was, no to Sima, hose go. Translated, no sitting beyond the interval. Let's go home. Period. So he was so good at.
What was it that he said?
He said, I don't want to, let us not sit for the second half of the movie.
No, I understood the meaning. What were the words that he used?
Sima. No to Sima.
Okay.
Hose go. Hose go. I mean, he spoke in syllables and the sign language, which only both of us and another friend of ours could do. Okay. Of course, one of the prescription given was regular repeated chanting of Sanskrit mantras, which was not a big, which was a no-brainer because this family of us, it was a norm in our family. True to form, suddenly he started to speak when he was 8+. So that was one hurdle crossed. And of course, after the initial hiccup of about 10 days, word flowed in an unending stream, no lisping, no searching for the right word, no grammatical mistakes, and erasing out the will he questioned completely. In fact, a couple of months when he started, after he started talking, he participated in one of the Rudra Ekadasis that we conduct at home, chanting the entire Rudram and the Chamakam effortlessly by heart. Okay, that was a huge thing.
Age of?
So he would have been around 9 then, because he started talking at 8+. So and this is less.
Was chanting mantras.
Yeah, because see, all of it was in the back of his mind. He had been absorbing it, and what you call the unconscious brain had been absorbing it and taking it in, soaking it in. That's it. Dyslexia as an issue made a very late appearance by way of identification when he was in class 3. Now, class 3 is when Bala Vidya Mandir, his school, where he did his school from LKG to the 12th, introduced reading and writing. Till then, it was mostly oral teaching. and lines and drawing activities, that too on sand, slate, with slate pencils. So actual writing with a pencil on paper started only in class 3. And class 3, psychologists say, that is the ideal age and appropriate time when the fingers are formed enough to be able to hold the pencil right without pen pressure. He didn't write. Now, what do you do? For that too, school had an answer. Remedial classes at MDA by MDA trained teachers in their school remedial room 5 days a week. This called for pulling out the child from regular timetable during the hours when the rest of the class had library or similar classes, so that Sripathi would not miss any lessons. I underwent training too to be equipped to teach him and help him at home, and thus not lose the continuity of remediation. This went on through his entire school life till 12th. Yes, till the 12th he went for remedial classes. And much of what he learned was, or rather, why much? Almost all of what he learned was by hearing alone. He wouldn't read, as he would not read, and his replies were oral, even when he started writing at age 12. Because he could not write, his exams were oral and marks were adjusted. Now, this.
So the school was very supportive.
Inability.
School was very supportive. The school was very supportive.
That is a very, very. That is one of the biggest boons, and that is an understatement. Hadn't school been supportive, Sripathi wouldn't be where he is. Hadn't Mr. Nathan, his principal, not been there, Sripathi would have never been what he is today. Now, this lack of reading, this inability to read, was extensively supplemented by a lot of being read to at home from textbooks and supplementary materials, encyclopedias, and subject-oriented books. Remember, I told you our house was full of books, and you had books on every subject under the sun, which helped him a lot. Lessons told to him as stories, as a narrative, while doing some other activities at home, like playing a board game or gardening, or watching TV, or traveling, or anything, any activity. Teaching by his parents was converted into a fun activity, so much so there have been days when he would stop even as we were walking and ask for a story of the road, or the snail that crossed the road, or the cloud that was overhead, or the moon that had just risen, or whatever caught his eye at the moment. And believe me, he had that story. That story was told instantly. That helped him a lot, yes. The various supplementary help that his school principal, Mr. Nathan, whom I salute to, and I thank him for being in our lives every morning as I wake up, is that not that he facilitated all that was not in the norm, all that was not in the rule book. Be it in terms of allowing him to cycle to school from class 2 onwards, when cycling was allowed by students only from class 5, or being included as a permanent member of the school 16-member cricket squad. Whether he played or not doesn't matter. And allowing him to carry petty cash and his house keys, none of which was allowed. And all of them helped boost Sripathi's ego and self-confidence and his self-worth. Similarly, was a blanket permission to take all tests and exams orally till class 8, when school will be answerable to CBSE after. Interestingly, the permission to cycle led on to Sripathi having a very unique collection of keychains, besides the conventional stamp and coin collection that most children have. And he cherishes this, all his collections he cherishes them all to this day. Watching information loaded appropriate TV programs on history, National Geographic, Discovery, Animal Planet, Discovery Science, Sony, BBC Earth, and similar channels were a huge input supplier. And with some Cartoon Network and age-appropriate programs thrown in for relief. Many of these programs, we sat with him so that we could relate his school activity to what he was seeing on screen. All of this just proves that education and knowledge need not be via the 3 hours alone. It can be imbibed via audiovisual aids and observing nature. Movies, which were part of his speech therapy, also helped in he learning language, be it Tamil, English, or Hindi. History, where movies like Gandhi and Gladiator and Last Emperor. Mythology, be it movies like Karnan and Thiruvalayadal. Fantasy, in a movie like Jumanji. Geography, in Anaconda and various uh, David Attenborough movies, and a lot of sci-fi fiction. I'm not going to bore you by going through the list. In fact, it was movies to books in many a case that was a pointer. Seeing the movie enthused Sripathi to read the book at a later date. I'll give you examples of Godfather and the Day of the Jackal. And in fact, there was a time when it was Day of the Jackal, I remember. He saw it and was reading the book parallelly to see whether the book and the movie matched, which it did, incidentally. And while school, tuition, remedial, mainstream teachers, therapists, doctor were all the scaffolding that helped him, it was the waiver and concessions from the CBSE board, which was a factor that gave Sripathi the biggest push in terms of confidence, ego boosting, and conviction that he can do as well as his classmates. The story behind the CBSE board waiver comes in when in class 8, when he was doing class 8, it was a 3-language formula. And of course, he did nothing in Hindi or Tamil. School pushed him because it was under control. Then Nathan sir came up and told him, Mr. Nathan came, he called us and told us, this child needs a waiver from language. CBSE does not recognize dyslexia. The only thing nearest CBSE recognizes is spasticity. And already it is on record that 3 students from Vidya Mandir, Mylapore, had taken in the preceding years exemption and concessions on grounds of spasticity for their wards. Why don't you go and try it? We immediately went and met the CBSE director here, regional director, presented our case with his medical record from 8 to 10 months on. And he was convinced that there was a solid case. But since, as Mr. Nathan had said, there was no record of, there's no provision for dyslexia or SLD, apply via spasticity. But my child was not spastic. How do we do it? Immediately ran to the doctor who said, Lakshmi, dyslexia is a form of spasticity. It's somewhere the mind is not working right. So it's nothing wrong. You're not saying anything wrong by saying that your child has got a spastic condition. I will give you the necessary letter. It had to be endorsed by a government doctor. Our man was not a government doctor. Our doctor was not a government doctor then. He had retired from government service. So he got somebody to endorse it. Of course, another school had endorsed it and his medical records endorsed it. And so on, the people were right. We pushed it and he got the exemption. We had applied, and when he got his exemption sometime in November, I remember very well when he got it, when he was in the November of class 8, school began in July. In November, he got the exemption from language. And believe me, language, which was his biggest bugbear, and he realized that he didn't have to take language, he was a different person. His academic performance improved, his scholastic interest soared. This immediately led us, me and Satyam, to think, if this can do to our child, imagine what a big boon it would be for the entire community of children with dyslexia, with SLDs, to get this provision, to get this exception. Immediately, we worked on the HRD ministry through various channels. to get the blanket waiver and concession for them included in the CBSE immediately, as soon as possible, that is. It is on the basis of this waiver and concession, and we got it. And we got it. Yes, we were supported by.
So Sripathi was the first child to get it under dyslexia from CBSE?
No, Sripathi didn't get it for dyslexia, mind you. There were 3 other children who had got it on the ground of spasticity, who had passed out from another school.
But they were
Sripathi
actually
was the 4th child. But then those children, or rather those parents, they got it for their child and then they carried on with their lives. I can say with pride, we wanted it for all the children who are having such a problem to benefit from it, because we saw the grassing, the obvious difference that it made. And which is when we contacted.
Thank you so much, Baby, for all your efforts. That was real farsight, and
thank you for all
your efforts.
Yes, it was huge effort. There's no denying that. Now, all of it is huge effort. There's no denying the effort. And of course, that is when I contacted DC, Mr. Chandrasekhar of MGA, and he said, oh, nothing is going to work. I have been applying for 10 years and nothing has come out of it, Lakshmi. What can we do and all? Satyam, I think we are barking up the wall. Satyam said, you just give us your copy of your file, a file that was 10-year old. I had 10 years of paperwork done. So we took that MDA file, we took our child's file, with a formal application, both by MDA, by us, by Balavidya Mandir, the school, signed by Mr. Nathan. We approached the HRD ministry, and believe me, 4th day after application, the order for exemption, the order for concession was on board for dyslexia.
For dyslexia.
The order, for dyslexia was on board.
That's great.
Something
amazing,
which is phenomenal. Amazing is not the word. Yeah, and then it is on the basis of this waiver and concession, mind you, that many of the state boards across the country also extended the facility. And of course, subsequently, CBSE also modified and expanded its terms of reference, which we came to hear much later. Now, this is what our little bit for this community. One small step for us, a giant leap for the SLD community. Now, when reading like talking was, remember, he has still not started reading. Even when we got the concession in class 8, he had not started reading. The journey is not over. Our journey was not, it's just not even halfway through. He had only reined in his ADHD. We had reined in his talking. He has still not, and little bit of writing, yes. He has still not started reading. And reading, like talking, was an overnight miracle. On 16th of January 2002, 1.5 months prior to his 10th boards, he started reading. And he hasn't stopped since. Why then and not earlier or later, there is no answer, excepting the old story of it being dyslexia. Now again, with a lot of conversation happening at home between the 3 of us, we unconsciously helped him to think, to ask questions, to decipher and figure things out, to argue and work out the outcome of each argument. These were never confined to any one topic, and no topic was taboo. I guess all of this helped him later while working on his PhD, and now when he's basically a researcher and a policy analyst. School done, college was a different, enriching, enabling experience. And then, of course, university, higher academics, and the career. He has no qualms telling his seniors and superiors that he has dyslexia. And that is written work, which is all of it now, as an analyst, needs to be vetted on grounds of dyslexia. His phenomenal photographic memory, coupled with the capacity of different and differentiated reasoning, is an advantage that he exploits to the hilt. Again, by the time he went to college, he had become so self-assured and so self-confident that we did not have to worry about him, about anything, on any ground, starting with academics. And we actually pat ourselves on the back for it, for all the work that we had put in. Which is why I said in the beginning, parents, your hard work will never go unrewarded. You have to put in that work. You have to walk that extra mile. You have to do it. But if you do it, you will be given rewards. And there's nothing that goes unrewarded. And yes, besides all that we did as parents, you may call this what I'm saying philosophical. I should say what worked also for us was the traditional mantram, tantram, yantram, aushadam. The formula of that, the formula of prayers, vows, mind training, good luck charms, traditional medicines for the mind and body, as in Ayurveda and homeopathy. Homeopathy has got some graduated drugs for hyperactivity and attention deficiency, all of which played a role. In fact, believe me, Sripathi had exam fever. He used to go to school absolutely fine on the exam day. 9 o'clock exam begins. 9:10, I will get a call. Ma'am, your son is not well. Take him home. He's running temperature, 103 temperature.
Oh my God.
A child was perfectly all right when he left at 8:30. Why was it? It was exam fever. He was so petrified of exams, even when he was taking oral exams.
Literally exam fever.
Excuse me, literally exam fever. That was the first time I actually saw exam fever, to be honest. And once language was removed, this fever actually gradually subsided. It didn't totally go away. So in fact, we've got a very good homeopathy doctor in Chennai, and it was he who was taking care of that exam fever part of it, saying that, yes, this comes out of anxiety, and we have got medicines in homeopathy for anxiety. So we never actually left any stone unturned. We see results. So from can he, will he did. And the Lord above made it happen. I confess both of us believe in complete surrender to the Almighty, who gave us a multiplicity of problems, showed us a way out, guided us throughout, and made Dr. Sripathi Narayan a dream which was as audacious as it was ambitious happen. Yet the journey is not over, nor will it ever be. This brings me to the last caveat number 12 to all our parents. Our children will, and I'm going to finish off in 1 minute now. Our children will always need our help, always need a fallback support system. We as parents can never sit back and say, my job is done now, I can do whatever I like, and my child is out of my hands, etc., etc. It is never so. Somewhere psychologically at the Somewhere psychologically at the back of their minds, there will always be an unconscious search for validation, for approval, for encouragement, and an unending need for a ear to hear them, a shoulder to lean on. There will be moments of outbursts and cathartic outpouring, and who best can help them out other than us? We have to be patient with that too. Now, all of this, whatever I have spoken for the last, I think, 35, 40 minutes, brings me to the context of dyslexic advantage. What you were talking about, Rashmi. A concept that was not there in our time, that we ourselves were exposed to only in 2019 when I heard Winnie talk to us at Gold, PSG, but which we had imbibed and used subconsciously throughout. It was there, it didn't have a name, that's all. So in all this, parents, again for you, 3 points. Identify the dyslexic strength and weaknesses in a child. Work on the dynamics of dyslexic advantage in the child. Dyslexics are endowed with material reasoning, interconnected reasoning, narrative reasoning, and dynamic reasoning, all of which in parts or together helps them to work at a different level, being strengths that makes them achievers. For instance, in Sripathi's case, his strength of interpersonal reasoning, narrative reasoning, and dynamic reasoning makes him a very perceptive, strategic, defense and foreign policy analyst that he is today. All of this is a part of the game. So parents, don't fret, don't stress, don't get hyper more than needed. Perhaps a calming meditation technique for yourselves, either through another medium or by someone or by your own self, will go a long way in helping yourself. But don't fall into the trap of charlatans and Swamijis around. All of that is bunkum in one word, whoever by whichever name they go. You have to help yourselves to calm yourselves. And it is all going to help in handling the child and all the situations therein. Yes, in all this, I forget one major point. There will be tension between the husband and the wife, because after all, we are all human. None of us is perfect. And this is an unexpected situation that has landed on our laps the day our child was born, our child was identified with the problem. Learn to come to an understanding. And to come to an understanding, you need to talk to each other openly and totally. Thrash out your differences, thrash out your opinions, and come to an understanding. And never fight in front of the child. Never, ever. Because it's going to affect the child. I can tell you numerous instances about this later. And remember, yes, if you ask me what did I do? Well, I did pranic, I did Reiki, I did Nichiren Buddhism, I've done various techniques of meditation, and all of it has helped me to focus my child, to focus my mind on my child and my child alone. Remember, dyslexia is not a dead end or the end, but it is a beginning of life, a life with a difference. Thank you, people.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi, for having shared, I think, the most important part of your life with all of us over here. And it was really enriching and so inspiring. Are there any questions?
One point here.
Yeah.
Lakshmi, 1 point here. Sripathi is in your audience.
Oh, welcome, Sripathi. We're really happy to have you here among our audience. Dear Lakshmi, madam, at what age and what kind of strengths did you identify in Sripathi? And how did you help him choose his career based on these strengths? Lakshmi, did you get that question?
I got the question. Let me tell you, as I said, I didn't know about dyslexic advantage and all the rest of it. I didn't know his strengths as identified by dyslexic advantage.
You did put in a lot of effort, both of you, in choosing the right career for him. How did you do that?
Or rather, the career chose itself for him. Would you like to say something? See, it was more choosing a career more out of elimination. Science was difficult for him. Maths was a bogeyman again. So that brought into humanities and commerce. He took commerce in +2. And as he said, and he had apprenticed, I forgot to say 1 point over here. Throughout, from class 6 onwards, Sripathi was apprenticed with every trade that we knew of. From literally from your roadside, your neighborhood mom and pop shops, to a medical shop, to a cycle retailer, to a small scale industry, to everything. And he kind of had an idea of what he was exposed to every kind of interaction. So when he chose, when the 10th, he knew that the only option, because again, out of elimination, Bala Vidya Mandir did not have humanities as an option those days. So he had to take commerce. So commerce obviously goes into either the actuarial sciences or to accountancy and so on and so forth. And having a brother-in-law who had his independence practice, he worked under the brother-in-law for about 2 months during the summer vacation. At the end of it, he said, Amma, I know very well I'll be a very successful and a very good chartered accountant, but I can't be bothered about taking care of other man's money all my life.
Oh, that was so... Thoughtful of him.
Perceptive of.
Very
He is
perceptive.
very perceptive.
Yes. Yes.
And secondly, yes, he got, though, despite his difficulty in mathematics, again because of dyslexia and reversals, 12th mathematics, he got 94%. Yes. In accountancy. In accountancy, yes.
Wonderful.
He got 90% in accountancy in 12th thing. But 12th boards. And when you asked him, will you be willing to go in for chartered account for a CA program, which we were willing to, accommodate and risk, as Satya would put it, he said no. That was a good day when I did my accountancy paper well. There's no guarantee that that good luck to last me for 3 years that I have to do my chartered accountancy paper, where the pass ratio he knows is less than 2%. Then and less than 2% even now. So that automatically brought him to the humanities stream. Mm-hmm. So he took political science and economics. Economics he was familiar with right from his 10th, yes. And political science, the flavor was a flavor of the season at home, always.
It was
my husband being a political analyst, and there was so much of politics at home going on, talk on politics ongoing, and political science is only kind of, I had given him, since I had done political science as an ancillary in college, I had given him a bird's eye view of what the subject was. And he happily concluded, even before I had finished my introductory talk on what political science is. That is only the academic aspect of politics. Big deal. Mm-hmm. That was his reaction to when I said what political science was. He took political science in BA. Mm-hmm. With a couple of ancillaries, he sailed through it. But even then, even as a child, he was very much interested in ammunition. And in fact, even today, he has a whole collection of Jane's manual on ammunition.
So in retrospect,
and defense apparatus.
There is a question for you, Lakshmi. In retrospect, do you think, are you able to identify what were his strengths, dyslexic strengths? Now that you know about the theory.
His strengths, as I said, it was interpersonal reasoning, it was narrative reasoning, it was dynamic reasoning. Those were his strengths. He could, and all of it wells into what he is doing now. Without the jargon, if you know, we know what he was able to do, what he was able to think. I'll give you an example of his interpersonal reasoning. When he was about between 9 and 10 years old, we were driving through Mylapore early in the morning. He saw both lines of the road, both sides of the road lined with the, what do you call it? Bleaching powder. Bleaching powder, which normally you have, that you need, it was freshly laid up bleaching powder. He turns around and said, "Are there any elections around the corner?" Oh. No, why? Uh-huh. No, why? No, why is this bleaching powder? Why is there bleaching powder on both sides of the road? Unless somebody is campaigning, any VIP is campaigning, this wouldn't be there. Then I said, no, it could even be for a temple festival, the Kovil Tiruvira, because we were going to Mylapore and near Kabalishwar temple. No, this doesn't look like a temple thingy because it's all in the side lanes. Side lanes, only people who campaign go through these side lanes. The temple, the temple Tiruvira is only on the main roads, not on these side lanes. Mm-hmm. So that was his deductive reasoning, which in logic we call it deductive reasoning. That was his deductive reasoning, which in turn you can, in terms of dyslexic advantage, you can call it interpersonal reasoning, or narrative reasoning, or whatever, anything. It is up to you to deduce what it is today. But then it was that. That itself decided for us, made things easy for him to choose what he wanted to do. So when he did his master's in defense and strategy studies from Madras University, it was quite in the natural flow of things, political science, and he did that because he was always interested in defense and defense systems and all that, and all the rest of it. And defense strategy, yes, very important. So when it comes to your question about what decided and which capacity decided, this is it. Rashmi, can we ask if Sripathi wants to say something?
Yes, Sripathi, he has shut his video. Sripathi, can you come online? Yes, hello. Would you like to put in a few words?
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay. No, because there's a major power problem in Delhi since last night. And pretty much all my electronic items are failing one after another. So, one or two things I would like to say about dyslexia is that from my childhood experience is that I've been getting into all kinds of troubles and walking out of the place because I could talk my way out. Or negotiate a deal and cut my losses and get out. And that was been my biggest advantage, because even my day job now is to identify issues when none might exist.
Predict them.
Hello?
Predict them.
Yeah, predict.
Yeah, we have a few comments over here. Lakshmi, I'll read it out to you. Naushin from Japan says, Lakshmi man, you're truly inspirational. Preeti here has said that this is an amazing journey. Can't imagine the unexplainable effort of parents and Sripathi. So,
thank you so much, Naushin. Shobha had also made a comment earlier. I read that. So thank you so much, Naushin, Shobha, and Preeti, and all the rest of you who have attended.
Shobha, yeah, Shobha has written, thank you, ma'am. Lakshmi has asked, Mridula was, yeah. So, to sum it up, I think, is there anyone else? Vineet, would you like to say something?
No, I heard the thing. Sripathi is also here. So I hope I would like to ask Sripathi whether you are aware of the concept of dyslexic advantage.
Yeah. And,
okay. So,
and that is more from a personal experience than from a clinical experience.
Exactly. So that is what actually we realize that dyslexic advantage on our own. So it's totally experiential thing. However, yes, parents if are able to understand that and use it, maybe it can be very useful in the studies and the other career part. So I see that you are basically your strength is analysis.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So
and put it in one word, we dyslexics are born crooks. We don't think straight. We are born crooks.
Yeah.
When anyone enters a building, they see only the entrance. Our first idea is to check how many windows and exits are there. Where is the fire exit? Which floor are you? Can we jump from this window and land safe? So that being the case, we observe things that I don't think most others will observe or will make an effort to observe. They only see a line and will try to figure out where in the line to stand.
Yeah. And
my stuff is that how do I skip the line? and this I used to do quite often when I was doing my undergrad in Tambura, Madras Christian College, where to come to the city we had to take the suburban train. All the rest of the college used to stand in the queue. All I had to do was to check whether there are any of my friends standing in the queue higher up. Ask the macha, one ticket, problem solved. So that is the thing, problem solving. And to be a problem solver, you should be able to have the instinctive ability in identifying what are all the problems that one can confront. Yes. Even before one enters the scene.
Yeah, exactly. My only submission to all the parents here is that dyslexic advantages are very real and they have high real world value. when you go for a career or in real world situations, they will have high value. Unfortunately, our school system is only test creating people practically who are obedient and disciplined and only like workers. They are not creating free thinkers. And dyslexics by nature are free thinkers. They cannot be put in a way, this is the way you think. So the dyslexic advantage, many parents have little doubt about how it works. So I hope in due course we are able to explain, and so the parents are also able to ingrain this idea. Thank you, Sripathi. Thank you, Dhana ma'am.
I like to add one point, which is what my mother said about me being not interested in chartered accountancy after 12. Why should I handle someone else's money? It is that kind of an attitude where we guys thrive. You ask us to do the mundane stuff which everyone else can do it. Find someone else. You want an impossible task? Give it to us. We will find answers even when there are no questions.
Correct. I agree. Absolutely agree.
And that is what was my day job as an analyst. Finding answers for questions that are yet to be asked.
Correct. Thank you, Sripathi.
Lakshmi, there is one question to you from Surya. She says, Lakshmi ma'am, you are such an inspiration. How did you deal with the emotional dysfunction and executive dysfunction that makes every day messy?
As far as emotional and executive dysfunction is concerned, executive dysfunctions, many of which we had anticipated very early on, and we worked on it to minimize the dysfunction. For example, gradually. For example, when the child moved from half-day school to full-day school, which came with maybe a 6-week break in between. Those were the days when we used to have a school used to open on July 1st, first week of July, and when the school closed at the end of April. So we had easily about 2 months of vacation. So when I knew that the child had to go for, when the school reopens, he has to go for full day school. He had 2 whole months in between. During the school 2 months, I trained his eating habits in tune with what was the school's training of my eating habits were. That is breakfast by 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, a snack at 10 o'clock, lunch at 12:30, and of course 3 o'clock he comes home. So that's it. And so he gets another meal at around 3:30 at home. And to do this, first thing I did was to pack he used to have breakfast, normal breakfast, is all what we have on the dining table, laying the dining table, etc. 10 o'clock snack, I used to pack his bag, his lunch bag, with snack box and his lunch box.
During vacation.
Okay, as it would be when school reopened. So 10 o'clock when it's for snack time, I used to, we had a dinner gong at home, a small dinner gong. I used to ring that gong. I said, Sripathi, your snack gong is on, go and pick up your snack. He used to go pick up his snack from the lunch bag, sit at the dining table, have a snack, put it back, wash his hands and put it back. Similarly, lunchtime, I used to again ring the dinner gong. He used to pick up his lunch box, open it, lay his, spread a napkin, spread it out neatly, and with a spoon and with all the cutlery that you need, he used to eat. I trained him through those 2 months.
So basically, you just gave him the continuous routine. You gave him the continuous routine which he would have had to follow once he goes to school. So not breaking that routine was the cue.
So he was the only child who did not have a problem with food in school. And the whole school was shocked. So from the principal downwards up to the chaprasi, and that is how I dealt with every executive dysfunction of his. It was basically anticipating it and working towards it. And those which we didn't anticipate, we not only accepted it, where we could correct, we corrected, where we could make him understand, we sat him down and made him understand, and so on and so forth. Similarly, emotional dysfunction, Many of it is again anticipated, which we could, prepare him. Some of it which we couldn't, which we didn't anticipate, we helped him through. So this is how we help. Remember, and this went on for a very long time, I would say. So what happens is, it is helping the child to help himself. And we also made it very sure that he cannot seek, he has to seek help within himself for certain problems. I suppose I have got myself across. If not, whoever asked me the question here, they have all that. This is for all parents, Rashmi. All of them have my number. I'm open to talking to them individually anytime they want. Anytime they can call me up and talk to me.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm sure there are going to be a lot of calls. The next question is, what changes happened in college cognitively? Can you compare his school and college life?
Two things happened in colleges. He was totally independent. Mm-hmm. We sent him to Madras Christian College. We lived in Ayyer. His college was in Tambaram. If he was to commute up and down, because that was the only place where they had political science. The other option was Presidency College, and we didn't hear anything great about that department. And we were very insistent, both of us were very insistent that he should go and stay in a hostel at some point in our life, in his life, so that he learns the world out. Because staying at home, no matter how much of freedom you give him, he's still in a cocoon. He should get out of that cocoon and break it. And the earlier it's broken, the better it is for the child. In fact, I have always held this, and I say this to everybody. Every child should spend at least 3 years of their life in a hostel to know what life is, to know what adjustment, to know what empathy is, to know what cooperation is, to know what friendship is. It is a huge learning experience which nothing can compensate. Nothing can compensate, especially in today's times. My times were different. I went through college 40 years ago. My times were different. But today's world, they have to go through college, to hostels where they see something which is not available in their immediate world. So the cognitive difference I found, was he learned to be independent. He learned to live with the world. He learned to be, as I said, all the points that I said, to be cooperative, to see what the other. He saw life. He saw life firsthand, and he also was in a position. He was made to be in a position where he had to take decisions and be responsible for the decisions and accountable for those decisions.
Right.
That is a major, and be totally responsible for the decision. To take decisions, to be accountable for decisions was there even when he was at home from class 6 onwards. But to be responsible for those decisions came only in, but to be responsible for those decisions came only in college.
When you went to college.
And that is one major cognitive difference they had. That was because he knew he was responsible for the decision. Not only was he accountable for it, but he was also responsible for it. Nobody is going to say, nobody would cover up for him then.
There's another comment. Sripathi, a truly unique way of looking at life and challenges. A standard you have self-made. Give us the impossible and we will crack it. That's really inspirational, and you're an innovator. Vamshi Priya says, thank you so much, Lakshmi Madam. Truly inspiring. Sri Lakshmi says, Dhanalakshmi ji, thanks for sharing your experience. It's very inspiring. Sripathi, very best wishes for your future. Is there anybody else who would like to say or write down anything in the comments box? So, shall we wrap it up? Lakshmi, would you like to say anything else, Lakshmi?
Yeah, one more point I would like to just give you one more incident about executive dysfunction and all that. Or he after his masters, He went to Delhi, worked for about between masters and MPhil. After both the courses, he went to Delhi and worked for 2 years. He came back to do his PhD. And once he came for PhD, we knew that he had enrolled and everything. We knew it's going to take a minimum of 3 years because that is a minimum university cutoff.
Right.
That a PhD cannot be granted unless it is, they have to work. Unless they have completed 3 years of registration. That is for someone who's had experience in the subject, which he already had. So going back to that, one major point was Satyam immediately handed over, as soon as he had come and settled down and unwinded and everything, Satyam immediately handed over the financial responsibility of running the household.
Mm-hmm.
He said, this is the bank account, these are the checkbooks, this is the budget for the month, you handle the accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he handled it, Rashmi, is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
If the driver came and said that I need money for petrol, he would drill him. Why? Where? How many kilometers?
Didn't he bungle up or make any mistake? Didn't he bungle up even once or make any mistake in the finances?
He was so meticulous. He was so meticulous that everybody puts their hands up and said, Amma, why do I have to answer him?
Okay.
From my maid to my sabzi wala, to my istri wala, to my driver, to my grocery man, to myself again. I said, Satyam, Sripathi, I want some pin money. Give me 2,000 rupees. He says, what for? Tell me 2 reasons why you need money. You are driven from wherever you go, you are driven from point A to point B. Wherever you go, the car is filled with petrol. And anyway, the driver has got extra money always with him for whatever contingency expenses that may turn up. And then whatever you have spent, you give me an account, I reimburse you. What do you want this extra 2,000 rupees for? And anyway, remember, it's my father's hard-earned money. You cannot squander it away. So that taught him, that gave him that courage, that gave him that, as I said, accountability and responsibility to, in not only minimum terms, but also in a larger picture.
So there is one more message that Vineet has written. Dyslexics are like X-Men. The guys who create and invent, that is the M strength, who analyze and make sense of the world around us, have the I strength, who entertain with their narrations, have the N, that is the narrative strength, and who do real world problem solve for us are the D strength. I hope everybody knows what are the MIND. M is materialistic, I is interconnected, N is narrative, and D is dynamic. All this is part of the theory of the dyslexic advantage from the book Dyslexic Advantage by Doctors Ayyer, which the Gold PhD has been following like a Bible. There are more messages. Nicely put, Vineet sir. Then thank you, Mridula ma'am and Rashmi, most needed parent story. Yes, this was really a most needed one, to believe that what looks impossible is indeed possible. Thank you very much, Rashmi, Lakshmi, sorry. So just to sum it up, Lakshmi, what you would like to tell the parents, I believe, is that there are no shortcuts. You have to put in the efforts. You cannot outsource the upbringing of your child. You have to do it yourself. It is only you who has the interest. It is only in your interest to bring up the child the right way, train him the right way. And such a wonderful story that we have heard and seen today of Sripathi. Congratulations to both the parents, Dhanalakshmi, Satyamurthy, and to Sripathi. All three of you, amazing family and wonderful efforts. God, I just wrote down the small thing for the three of you. God knew what kind of parents the both of you could be. And that is why he gave you Sripathi.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Oh,
let's
sorry.
call it wraps. Thank you everyone for being a wonderful audience, and thank you Lakshmi once more. Thank you Sripathi also
Thank
for
you,
joining.
Rashmi. Thank you. Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you, audience. Thank you.
Goodbye everybody.